In the last few videos, we've used reference images to push NanoBanana towards a specific style. It works well for photographic qualities and broad aesthetics, architecture, known things that models are trained on. But at a certain point, reference images might not be able to get you to where you want to go. If you try to capture a really specific subject or distinctive visual language, an artist's work, your own illustration style, a unique architectural language, reference images average it out a bit. You get something that vaguely gestures to the style. So when you hit a wall like that, it is a very specific case because the flagship models are quite good at generating tons of different images in many different cases. But if you do hit that wall, the tool you can reach for is called a LoRA. A LoRA is a small adapter that you train on 10 to 30 images of a thing you want to capture. A style, subject, an aesthetic. Once trained, you apply it on top of a base model like Flux or Quen, and every generation is biased towards that look without having to prompt for it. It's the difference between describing a style to the model and showing the model so many examples that it learns the style itself. So some quick context on where LoRAs fit. So LoRA kind of captures the style, subject, or aesthetic. A control net, if you're familiar with that term or you've heard it before, enforces structure like depth maps or edges, and an IP adapter conditions on a reference image without any training. They solve different problems. They can be stacked together, but for what we're doing today, LoRA is the right tool. For this video, we're going to train a Flux LoRA on Michael Hansmeyer's subdivision work. These ornate, algorithmic, deeply detailed forms that kind of seem like not much else that a model has trained on. Then we'll apply that LoRA to a basic Rhino form and see what comes out. I have pasted in some images into Runchat, and a fun little tip to start with is that if you select all these images that are scattered about, you can use the organize button. So if we select them and hit organize, it'll kind of like cloud them a bit for us. You can train LoRAs inside of Runchat. And to do so, you can open the menu here. You can select training. Training is where you will see all of the runs that you've previously made and all the LoRAs you have already. For the moment, we have none, so we can train a new LoRA, or we can also add one from a URL if you found one online that you like. You'll notice that the training option is visible here. This is not visible by default. We might make it default again. And if we click train new LoRA, it's actually going to bump us to the dashboard. And now the reason it does that is because in the dashboard, in the workflows menu, there's a kind of hidden ability. That is the ability to select images that are from a workflow. And so in this case, there's 8 images here. If there was a few more, you'd see a drop down button here, and then you can unfold and it will show you more images that were created from that workflow, like in this example here. So what we can do is we can actually, we can click those images and inspect them, see them in full screen. But if we grab all of these images that we pasted into this workflow, we can then use the option above to train a LoRA. Really briefly, you also have a few other options here like downloading images. So if you wanted to get some images from a workflow, you could easily do it using that. In this case, we are going to train a LoRA. The endpoint we're going to use is Flux, and the name we're going to give this is Hansmeyer. Just to go through the additional settings here, trigger word is going to be SKS, and we're going to need to use that later. That's kind of like the default in Runchat. We're going to start training this. It's going to cost 5,000 credits. There are some other options, so we will start training. Great, so to kick that off and to see the progress of the run, we can go view training runs. So we've got Hansmeyer, it's being processed right now. So a few minutes later, it's showing a green tick and the LoRA is ready. Let's go back to our Hansmeyer LoRAs example, and I've pasted in a target form we can test on. So to use the LoRA we've just made, we can drag from the edge of this input, and you can see that Flux LoRA is an option here. In the settings bar at the bottom here, you see we have an option for selecting the LoRA. We can use the Hansmeyer LoRA, and then we just need to use the keyword here, so the trigger word, so that is SKS. That needs to be included in the prompt in order for this LoRA to be used. Running this should then apply that LoRA to this form. So we would expect to see a Hansmeyer-ish subdivision all over the surface of this. Great, so you can see it's done a fairly interesting job, really. It's adhered roughly to the form here, but it definitely has done a lot to kind of keep the proportions and qualities of the inputs and the kind of like purity of those compared to this form that we've input. So, okay, you might just be like, okay, this is not exactly what I was hoping for. You can configure many parameters for Flux LoRa. And so you can change guidance, inference steps, and strength to kind of affect how strictly it adheres to the original form versus applying the LoRa. If we duplicate this, for example, and we change the strength to 0.9 and run this, we should expect to see that it more strongly tries to match the LoRa. And so it is using less of the input form. And then we could try it again slightly lower. So if we do 0.8 and run that, we should expect that it'll keep closer to the original form. So on a spectrum, we have this in the middle. This is 0.9 and this is 0.8. Cool. So you can see it is getting closer to the original input form compared to this one. And then this one has just gone too far away from it. So it's a very fine adjustment, but it can help you kind of get closer to the original form. And this is another way that you can just get a lot of control. And yeah, we've seen some pretty incredible outputs with LoRas. So it's another tool that Runchat is really helpful for.